Welcome to Starlight Sci-Fi, where humanity's resilience meets the wonders of the cosmos. Prepare to explore gripping stories of human triumph, defiance, and the unknown. Today's tale will leave you questioning the limits of human ingenuity and the cost of underestimating it. When the Zarkith Dominion, an empire of interstellar conquerors, captured a lone human soldier during an ambush on a far-flung colony, they thought they had secured an easy trophy. Little did they know that one soldier would become the spark of their undoing. Days later, their high-security prison facility would vanish without a trace along with everyone in it. What happened inside those walls? And how could one human be responsible for something so impossible? The battle for Vesta 9 was over before it truly began. The Zarkith Dominion, masters of calculated warfare, had launched a sudden and overwhelming strike against the outer human colony. The skies were filled with the hum of their warships, sleek and menacing, blotting out the sun as they descended. On the ground, their soldiers advanced in unison, a tide of precision and ruthlessness that overwhelmed the colony's defenses. For the humans, the fight was desperate but hopeless. Vesta 9 had no major military presence, only a skeleton force of soldiers stationed to protect the colony. Their weapons were outdated compared to the Zarkith's advanced energy-based arsenal. Still, they fought back with the ferocity of a cornered animal, refusing to give up their home without a fight. Among the defenders was a soldier identified only by their call sign, C-117. Little was known about them beyond their service record, which described them as resourceful and highly disciplined. As the Zarkith advanced, C-117 stood out not for their rank or command, but for their sheer will to resist. While others fell back, C-117 moved forward, rallying scattered defenders and improvising tactics that managed to slow the invaders' advance, if only briefly. Their movements were calculated and precise, almost as if they had anticipated the Zarkith strategy. They disabled drones with scavenged tools, set up ambush points with stolen munitions, and used the terrain of Vesta 9's rocky outcrops to their advantage. For hours, they turned what should have been a swift conquest into a drawn-out skirmish. But even the most skilled warrior has limits. The Zarkith were relentless, and their numbers were overwhelming. By the time reinforcements arrived, C-117 was one of the last defenders standing. With ammunition running low and no cover left, they made a final stand at the edge of the colony's power station. The Zarkith swarmed, forcing them into a corner. Rather than execute the human, the Zarkith commander overseeing the operation ordered C-117 to be captured alive. The commander saw an opportunity to parade the soldier as a symbol of the Dominion's superiority. To capture such a defiant opponent would bolster their propaganda efforts, showing that even humanity's best could be subdued. Bound and disarmed, C-117 was escorted onto a Zarkith warship. Their expression betrayed no fear, only an unsettling calm that the guards found unnerving. They expected defiance or anger, anything but the quiet composure of someone who seemed entirely unbothered by their situation. The warship soon departed, leaving the smoldering remains of Vesta 9 behind. Its destination was Outpost Gracchus, a Zarkith prison complex renowned for its impenetrability. Orbiting a desolate planet in the outer reaches of Dominion space, it was a place where escape was not even a consideration. Once inside, prisoners disappeared from the galaxy's memory. As the ship approached the dark, foreboding silhouette of the prison, the Zarkith guards felt secure. They had captured a dangerous human, but in their minds the danger was over. What they didn't realize was that for C-117, the real battle had only just begun. Outpost Gracchus was the Zarkith Dominion's crowning achievement in high-security incarceration. Suspended in orbit around an uninhabitable planet, the prison was a massive, fortified construct bristling with automated defenses. It was a place designed to break the spirits of those within and deter any notion of escape. Its corridors were sterile and cold, its walls reinforced with alien alloys that could withstand even the most advanced weapons. The Zarkith believed it to be infallible, an unshakable testament to their technological dominance. For C-117, this was the new battlefield. From the moment they stepped off the transport ship, and into the facility's harsh, glaring light, the human soldier was under constant scrutiny. Zarkith guards flanked them on either side, their angular armor reflecting the cold efficiency of their empire. Security drones hovered overhead, their red optics trained on the prisoner's every move. C-117 was led to a holding area where the intake process began. Every possession was stripped away, and they were subjected to scans designed to detect concealed weapons, implants, or anything that might be used to gain an advantage. The Zarkith officers noted, with some amusement, that the human was carrying nothing of value, just a few survival tools, a battered data slate, and a standard-issue military patch. Once processed, C-117 was escorted to their cell. The room was stark and utilitarian, with smooth, featureless walls and a single recessed light that never dimmed. There was no privacy. A camera embedded in the ceiling observed their every move. A small slot in the wall dispensed bland, nutrient-rich paste twice a day. The message was clear. This was not a place for comfort or humanity. At first glance, C-117 seemed to accept their circumstances. Surveillance footage showed them sitting on the narrow metal cot, their gaze fixed on the floor. They ate when food was provided, rested when the lights suggested a shift in time, and moved only when absolutely necessary. To the Zarkith guards monitoring them, this behavior was typical of a prisoner who had resigned themselves to their fate. But beneath the surface, something far more deliberate was happening. C-117 was studying. Every second spent in that cell was an opportunity to observe, analyze, and catalog. The faint hum of the ventilation system, the rhythm of the guards' patrols, the precise intervals at which drones passed by, all of it was noted and mentally mapped. The Zarkith prided themselves on their superior technology, but they underestimated the human mind's ability to adapt. C-117 was patient, methodical, and relentlessly curious. They noticed the flicker of a camera when its lens rotated, the subtle change in the air pressure when a door opened somewhere nearby, and the faint vibration underfoot that hinted at the movement of machinery deep within the station's core. It was during these quiet hours that the seeds of rebellion were planted. C-117 had no access to tools, weapons, or communication, but they had something far more dangerous: time. The Zarkith, in their arrogance, believed that their prisoner was subdued, broken even. They couldn't have been more wrong. In the stillness of their cell, the human soldier began to formulate a plan. Every observation became a piece of a puzzle, every sound a clue. To the guards, the human seemed harmless, just another defeated soul among the many who had passed through Outpost Zarkith. But in reality, the silence wasn't submission, it was strategy. For now, C-117 moved carefully, deliberately keeping their true intentions hidden. The Zarkith had no idea that their perfect prison, so secure and unassailable, was about to face its greatest challenge. The storm was coming, but for now it was silent. 3 days after C-117's arrival at Outpost Zarkith, the first signs of something unusual began to appear. At first, it was almost imperceptible, a small fluctuation in the power grid that lasted less than 2 seconds. The lights in one section of the prison dimmed momentarily, and the faint hum of the station's energy systems wavered. It was so minor that the guards barely noticed, and those who did dismissed it as a routine glitch. Outpost Zarkith wasn't perfect, after all. Despite its reputation as an unbreachable fortress, even the Dominion's most advanced facilities occasionally experienced minor technical issues. The anomaly was logged by the automated systems and quickly forgotten. Maintenance drones checked the affected circuits and found no irregularities. To the Zarkith engineers, it was a non-event. But the anomaly wasn't a glitch. It was the first move in a much larger game. In the dim solitude of their cell, C-117 had begun their work. The human soldier, with no access to tools or weapons, had identified a subtle vulnerability in the prison's infrastructure, a hidden relay point embedded in the floor panel beneath their cot. It was a maintenance interface, designed for emergency repairs and entirely overlooked by the guards. To the Zarkith, it was insignificant, buried within a system they believed was impossible for a prisoner to exploit. To C-117, it was an opportunity. Through careful observation, the human had learned the rhythm of the guard rotations and drone patrols. Every 47 minutes, there was a 2-minute window where the surveillance camera in their cell shifted slightly, momentarily obscuring the corner where the cot sat. It wasn't enough time for a major operation, but it was enough to begin. Using nothing but their bare hands and a sharpened piece of metal scavenged from their food tray, C-117 worked methodically to pry open the panel. Each movement was deliberate, every noise muffled by the ambient hum of the prison's machinery. Over hours and days, they gained access to the relay point, a small, nondescript cluster of wires and circuits that connected to the prison's broader network. The Zarkith relied on their technology to maintain control, but they hadn't accounted for the unique ingenuity of a human under pressure. With no interface tools, C-117 used improvised methods to manipulate the relay, sending small, controlled surges through the system. The goal wasn't to cause destruction, it was to probe, to understand. The first power fluctuation was a test, a way to measure the station's response. C-117 monitored the faint vibrations in the walls as the automated systems compensated for the disruption. They noted the delay in the maintenance drone's arrival and the brief surge in energy that rerouted through the secondary circuits. It was data valuable, actionable data. The guards noticed nothing. To them, C-117 was just another prisoner sitting silently in their cell. The human's calm demeanor betrayed no hint of the calculated sabotage happening beneath their feet. The Zarkith commander received a report about the fluctuation but didn't give it much thought. After all, the prison was running smoothly. There were no signs of tampering, no alarms, no reason to believe that anything was amiss. It was an isolated incident in a system designed to handle far greater challenges. But for C-117, it was a victory. The anomaly had confirmed their suspicions. The prison's technology, while advanced, was not invulnerable. Beneath its sleek exterior were cracks waiting to be exploited. And now, armed with knowledge and patience, the human began to plan their next move. The Zarkith didn't know it yet, but their greatest mistake wasn't capturing C-117, it was underestimating them. What they thought was the harmless silence of a broken prisoner was, in reality, the quiet preparation of a predator stalking its prey. The first anomaly was only the beginning. The second anomaly came just a day after the unexplained power fluctuation, though this time it was harder to ignore. One of the patrol drones assigned to monitor the outer perimeter of Outpost Zarkith failed to report back. These drones were the backbone of the prison's security, programmed to maintain constant vigilance around the facility. Their advanced sensors could detect even the smallest disturbance in the surrounding space, and their loss was a rare occurrence. At first, the drone's disappearance was treated as a technical issue. Drones occasionally required recalibration or suffered malfunctions due to radiation exposure or mechanical fatigue. A search team was dispatched, consisting of 2 other drones and a Zarkith technician. They scoured the surrounding area in precise grid patterns, scanning for any sign of the missing unit. The results were baffling. The drone was gone, not destroyed, not disabled, but entirely absent. There was no debris, no distress signal, and no trace of its energy signature. It was as if the machine had simply vanished. This was enough to warrant a report to the prison's command center. The Zarkith commander reviewed the incident with growing unease. Outpost Zarkith had been operational for years, and while occasional glitches in the power grid weren't unheard of, a missing drone was unprecedented. The commander ordered an increase in security protocols. Drone patrols were doubled, and additional scans of the facility were initiated to rule out sabotage or external threats. Unbeknownst to the Zarkith, the threat wasn't external at all. It was sitting quietly in cell 47 billion, disguised as an ordinary prisoner. C-117 had been preparing for this moment since the first night in the facility. Through their clandestine access to the maintenance relay, the human soldier had managed to tap into the prison's network. The process had been painstakingly slow. Without proper tools or an interface, they had to rely on a mix of ingenuity and raw persistence to interact with the Zarkith systems. Eventually, they discovered a vulnerability, a low-priority communication channel used by the drones to coordinate their patrol routes. It wasn't heavily encrypted, as the Zarkith had never considered the possibility of a prisoner accessing it. Using a series of subtle commands routed through the maintenance relay, C-117 exploited this oversight. The missing drone hadn't malfunctioned. It had been hijacked. Once C-117 had gained control, they issued a command for the drone to disable its tracking beacon and leave its patrol route. The drone, now an unwitting accomplice, was instructed to dock in a maintenance shaft on the prison's outer hull, far from the prying eyes of the guards. There, it served a new purpose. The human began to modify the drone systems remotely, repurposing its tools and sensors for their own ends. Through trial and error, they transformed it into a covert agent capable of accessing parts of the station that were otherwise unreachable. The drone became an extension of C-117's will, a tool for sabotage and exploration. Inside the command center, the Zarkith commander remained oblivious to this unfolding threat. The missing drone was chalked up as a rare failure, an acceptable loss in an otherwise flawless system. The focus shifted back to routine operations, with no further investigation into the anomaly. For C-117, this complacency was a gift. The hijacked drone became their silent partner, gathering information, tampering with critical systems, and setting the stage for what was to come. The Zarkith believed that their prison was an impenetrable fortress, a symbol of their unassailable power. They didn't realize that within their walls, a single human soldier was dismantling that illusion piece by piece. The missing drone was the first significant strike, a subtle yet devastating blow to the Dominion's confidence. The guards resumed their duties, the drones continued their patrols, and the command center carried on as if nothing had changed. But beneath the surface of Outpost Gracchus, a storm was brewing, one that would shake the very foundation of the prison and the empire it served. Outpost Gracchus thrived on routine. Its unyielding efficiency was both its strength and its weakness. Every action, from guard patrols to system diagnostics, followed a meticulously planned schedule. To the Zarkith, this predictability was a mark of their superior organization. To C-117, it was a map, a framework to exploit. The hijacked drone, now fully under C-117's control, became a critical tool in dismantling this routine. With its sensors and mobility, the drone began probing the prison's infrastructure, identifying weak points in systems the Zarkith believed to be unbreakable. Ventilation ducts, maintenance shafts, and unused cargo ports, these overlooked parts of the station became pathways of opportunity. The first deliberate act of sabotage was subtle but effective. C-117 used the drone to disrupt the station's environmental controls, creating a minor fluctuation in the oxygen levels in a remote sector of the prison. It wasn't enough to endanger anyone, but it triggered an automatic alert in the control room. The guards, believing it to be another technical issue, dispatched a maintenance crew to investigate. Unbeknownst to them, this was part of C-117's plan. The maintenance crew's absence left a gap in the station's operations. While they were occupied with the malfunction, the drone slipped into a restricted area, the power distribution hub. Here, the drone executed its next task. A precise surge was sent through one of the station's secondary circuits, causing a temporary overload. The lights flickered, and the prison's automated systems briefly entered diagnostic mode. This seemingly minor incident was enough to cause ripples throughout the facility. Doors that were normally locked shifted momentarily into an unlocked state before resetting. Surveillance cameras rebooted, creating brief blind spots across multiple sectors. These disruptions, though fleeting, were enough to sow confusion among the guards. Reports of anomalies began piling up: malfunctioning locks, delayed patrols, and misaligned camera feeds. The prison's command center was inundated with error messages. To the Zarkith technicians, it looked like a cascade of minor technical issues, a coincidence, perhaps caused by a software update or an aging system component. But C-117 knew better. These anomalies weren't random. They were a carefully orchestrated chain reaction designed to destabilize the prison systems without drawing too much attention. Each malfunction was a small, precise cut aimed at weakening the prison's defenses. The Zarkith's pride in their technology worked against them. Convinced of their superiority, they failed to consider the possibility of sabotage. Instead, they doubled down on their reliance on automated systems, running diagnostics and deploying more drones to investigate the glitches. Ironically, this gave C-117 even more opportunities to exploit the network. Using the chaos as cover, the human soldier expanded their reach. The drone infiltrated deeper into the station's systems, accessing security logs, guard schedules, and even structural schematics. Every piece of information was a step closer to freedom. The guards began to grow uneasy. While the anomalies seemed harmless, their frequency was unsettling. The prison was supposed to be flawless, yet things were going wrong at an alarming rate. Whispers of sabotage began circulating among the ranks, but the idea was quickly dismissed. How could a single prisoner, stripped of all tools and locked away, possibly pose a threat to the Dominion's most secure facility? The answer lay in the Zarkith's blind confidence. They had underestimated their captive, dismissing C-117 as just another defeated soldier. But the humans' quiet persistence and ingenuity were turning their perfect system into a labyrinth of vulnerabilities. By the end of the 5th day, Outpost Zarkith was a prison in name only. Its walls still stood, its guards still patrolled, and its drones still hummed through the corridors. But the foundation of control, the intricate web of routines and systems that kept the facility running, was crumbling from within. The domino effect had begun, and the Zarkith were too arrogant to see it. For C-117, the pieces were falling into place. The plan was no longer just an idea, it was in motion. And soon the unstoppable force of human determination would collide with the unshakable confidence of the Zarkith Dominion. Outpost Zarkith was unraveling, but the Zarkith still didn't realize it. To them, the anomalies were irritating but manageable, a minor series of disruptions that their technicians would eventually fix. What they failed to see was the pattern beneath the chaos, the calculated precision of a single human soldier who was turning their fortress into a ticking time bomb. The drone under C-117's control had become more than just a tool. It was an extension of the soldier's will. Over the past days, the drone had infiltrated every critical system in the prison. From power grids to communications networks, it had mapped the station's weaknesses in stunning detail. The human soldier now had a complete picture of the prison's operations and knew exactly where to strike. The next move was bold. Using the drone, C-117 accessed the prison's cargo bay, where automated shuttles delivered supplies. One of these shuttles was scheduled to arrive soon, bringing provisions from a Dominion supply depot. The Zarkith guards had grown complacent about these deliveries, trusting their automated systems to handle the process without incident. C-117 saw the delivery as the perfect opportunity. With careful timing, they used the drone to infiltrate the cargo shuttle's loading systems. Through subtle manipulations of the station's controls, the human soldier altered the shuttle's manifest, adding an unscheduled maintenance unit to the shipment. To the Zarkith, it appeared as a routine addition, nothing worth investigating. When the shuttle arrived and docked with the station, the maintenance unit was unloaded and placed into a storage bay. In reality, it was the hijacked drone, now concealed within a standard cargo container. This maneuver brought the drone deeper into the heart of the prison, where it could access systems that had previously been out of reach. From this new position, C-117 launched the most daring part of their plan. The drone connected to the station's communication relays, which were used to transmit encrypted messages between Outpost Zarkith and the Dominion's central command. While the Zarkith relied on advanced encryption to secure their transmissions, they had overlooked one crucial detail. Their systems occasionally performed unencrypted internal diagnostics during routine maintenance cycles. C-117 exploited this vulnerability to hijack the station's communication array. With a carefully timed override, the human soldier sent out a coded distress signal disguised as routine telemetry data. The signal was simple but powerful, a beacon calling out to anyone within range. Its contents were unmistakable, a message in human standard code requesting immediate extraction. The signal wasn't just a cry for help. It was bait. C-117 knew that the Dominion monitor all transmissions, and the arrival of an unauthorized signal would raise alarms. The Zarkith, believing their systems compromised, would redirect their attention to the communication array, leaving other areas of the prison less secure. And that's exactly what happened. As the signal broadcasted into the void, the prison's command center went into high alert. Guards were deployed to investigate the source, and technicians scrambled to determine how the breach had occurred. Surveillance systems were redirected, and drones were pulled from their patrols to bolster the search. But while the Zarkith focused on the apparent threat, C-117 was already preparing the next move. Using the chaos as cover, the soldier triggered a series of carefully timed disruptions across the station. Power surges in critical areas caused doors to unlock and alarms to blare at random intervals. Ventilation systems malfunctioned, creating localized blackouts in key sectors. The guards, overwhelmed by the sudden cascade of failures, struggled to maintain order. Their flawless routines were shattered, and the unshakable confidence that had defined the Dominion's control over Outpost Zarkith began to crumble. By the time the Zarkith realized the extent of the sabotage, it was too late. Their perfect prison, their unassailable fortress, was no longer under their control, and at the center of it all was a single human soldier, invisible to their sensors, orchestrating the downfall of their most secure facility with nothing but patience, ingenuity, and an unyielding determination to escape. The breaking point had arrived, and the Zarkith were standing on the edge of a disaster they couldn't yet comprehend. Outpost Zarkith wasn't just compromised, it was on the verge of collapse. The Zarkith command center descended into chaos as the cascading disruptions reached their peak. Systems across Outpost Zarkith were failing in rapid succession, and the guards were struggling to keep up. Surveillance feeds blinked in and out, rendering key sectors of the prison invisible to the control room. Emergency protocols were activated, but they only seemed to worsen the situation. Doors sealed and unsealed randomly, alarms blared with no clear cause, and communication channels crackled with frantic but fragmented updates. In the midst of this confusion, C-117 made their final move. The drone, now fully integrated into the station's network, executed its last directive. It triggered a massive overload in the central power core, carefully calibrated to avoid a catastrophic explosion but severe enough to shut down all non-essential systems. Lights flickered, and the once ominous hum of the station's machinery fell silent. Outpost Zarkith was plunged into darkness, its sprawling corridors illuminated only by the dim red glow of emergency lights. The Zarkith guards scrambled to regain control. Backup systems activated, but they were sluggish and disjointed, hampered by the sabotage that had already spread throughout the station. Panic began to set in as the guards realized that the situation was spiraling beyond their ability to contain. Amid this chaos, the prisoner in cell 47 billion was nowhere to be found. C-117 had used the blackout to slip through the maze of corridors, navigating the prison with precision thanks to the drone's reconnaissance. Every step was calculated, every turn deliberate. The human soldier moved like a ghost, leaving no trace of their passage. With the guards distracted and the surveillance systems crippled, there was nothing to stop them. The drone, having served its purpose, was left behind in the central hub of the station. There, it initiated one final task, to erase all logs of its activity and the breaches it had caused. The Zarkith would find no evidence of how their systems had been compromised, No clues to the method behind the chaos. But C-117's escape wasn't the end of the story. As the Zarkith scrambled to restore order, they made a horrifying discovery. Cell after cell was empty. Prisoners across multiple wings of the facility were gone, vanished without a trace. Doors that had been sealed for years stood ajar, and life signs that should have been detected were absent. The guards were left to wander through empty halls, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. It wasn't just one human soldier who had escaped, it was an entire population of inmates. The true brilliance of C-117's plan revealed itself in the aftermath. The disruptions, the chaos, and the overloads had all served a dual purpose: to mask the humans' escape and to free every other prisoner in the facility. The prisoners, many of them seasoned criminals or enemy combatants, had seized the opportunity created by the blackout. Without a leader, they had acted instinctively, fleeing into the dark and using the confusion to overwhelm what few guards remained in their path. By the time the Zarkith regained partial control of the station, it was too late. The prison was eerily empty, its cells standing as hollow reminders of the captives it had once held. Outpost Zarkith, the pride of the Dominion's penal system, had become a ghost station. When the Dominion's reinforcements finally arrived, they found the facility in shambles. Reports of what had happened were conflicting and incomplete. Some guards claimed they had seen shadows moving in the dark, while others insisted that the prisoners had disappeared in an instant. The only certainty was that Outpost Zarkith had failed in the most spectacular way imaginable. For the Zarkith, the incident was an unthinkable humiliation. They had captured a single human soldier, confident that their prison was unbreakable. Now, that soldier was gone, and so was the entire inmate population. C-117's escape became a legend, whispered about in the shadows of Dominion-controlled territories. The Zarkith worked tirelessly to suppress the story, but it spread nonetheless. To the humans and their allies, it was a tale of defiance, a single individual standing against an empire and winning. For C-117, the mission was far from over. The escape from Outpost Zarkith was only the beginning, a first step in a much larger fight. The human soldier disappeared into the vastness of space, leaving behind nothing but questions and a lingering reminder of humanity's resilience. And as for the Zarkith, they were left to grapple with an unsettling truth. They had built their empire on the belief that they were invincible. But in the face of human ingenuity and determination, even their strongest fortress had crumbled like sand. This has been another thrilling journey with Starlight Sci-Fi. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an adventure. What do you think happened to the prison? Share your theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep reaching for the stars.